Welcome, wonderful Brainstorms audience. I'm so excited for this October podcast. We're getting into harvest time, so I thought it would be a great time to kind of reintroduce some of the issues we spoke about last year on agrotherapy. We've got a great guest, and I'll introduce you to him in just a couple moments. I do want to say we're coming to you once again from the wonderful Sycamore Studios in Plain City, Ohio. Got our expert owner, Steve, editor extraordinaire, and we're only coming to you because of a great and generous Fred and June McMurray Foundation from Los Angeles, who supports these podcasts. We want to hear what you've got to say about this one because we are literally calling for all hands on deck, literally, to get ready and help us save the planet. So how's that sound? I am so blessed to be joined today by Matt Garrett, who is a U.S. Navy veteran, and he's going to tell you and me, again, all of the things that he's learned about agrotherapy and about saving the planet since he's come back from service. And Matt, thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to have you.
I'm honored to be here. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
We're honored to have you. Tell the audience just a little bit about your service in the Navy, because I'm very impressed with it, and I may interject my impression as you go, because you're very mundane about it, and it's a very amazing service.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So I guess I'm just humbled because of all the veterans that went before me, kind of laid the foundation for me. So I was a corpsman with the United States Navy, as you had said. So I had signed up the senior year of my high school year, which happened to be 2001. Little did we know 9/11 would happen later that year. Coincidentally, it was just coincidence I went to boot camp a week after 9/11.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that was just planned. It wasn't intentional. But so I went to boot camp and then went to corpsman school. The thing that had adjusted is that little did I know the corpsman, you have a green side and blue side, so you go Marines or Navy.
And say just a little bit for our audience what it means for corpsman, because I know now, but I didn't when I got started. So.
Yeah, so the Marine Corps, and I actually initially went to the Marine Corps recruiter to be in the medical field because my mother was a nurse, and they had informed me that I actually had to go through the Navy recruiter. And what it is since Marines are Department of the Navy, they use the United States Navy corpsman on their side of the house as a field corpsman. So when you graduate from boot camp, Navy boot camp, and then Navy corpsman school, you can go green side, which is the United States Marines, or you can go blue side, which is the United States Navy, maybe go to Naval Hospital, a ship, or, et cetera. So at that point, you kind of, and people go back and forth. It's not like you're there forever. So I knew I kind of wanted to be green side eventually. So when I graduated from corpsman school, they sent me to Field Medical Service School. So you have, that's outside Camp Lejeune, and that is basically, I would call it a boot camp just for the corpsmen,
which is like glorified medics. I mean, because there are things that you do. I've said to my civilian friends, if you ever go down in the civilian world, pray that a Navy corpsman or Army medic is standing nearby, because what you do in battle. Mm-hmm. In the middle of the ocean, in the middle of, it's amazing. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I want our audience to understand how highly trained our military corpsmen are.
It's quite impressive, and for me, I'm blessed. I say this: I had the best job and the best branch and the best service. For me, and I was very honored to do that. So the corpsman is a very intense field, and I looked at all of them. I initially had looked at the Army and Air Force initially, and I just found for me, and this is not that encompasses everything. So you're saying, so for example, needle thoracentesis, they teach you how to do a crike, you're dropping IVs, but you're also responsible for all the immunizations, keeping the medical records, eye tests, everything, physicals, so regular maintenance from urgent care to ambulatory care. It's really encompassing, and the corpsman school is very intense. Mm-hmm. So you have all the motivation in the world to pass through, or else you're going to be chipping paint on a ship overseas. So that definitely kept me up till 1 or 2 o'clock at night. A lot of nights in the barracks. So, but you keep pushing through, and it is very intense. It's almost like a physician's assistant in a way, but obviously you're not quite that level. But it's definitely above a paramedic, and you're doing a lot of stuff there.
Well, it encompasses, not only the knowledge part, vaccinations, family care, blah, 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 but surgeon techniques. Thoracentesis, I had to spend a lot of time learning that when I went to the ER, before I went to the ER. Putting in a crike and helping somebody to breathe again. Those are not things that are easy to do in an ER.
Right.
Let alone in a battlefield. So
No,
I
agree.
just kudos to you and all corpsmen and medics. I mean, anybody in the civilian world who, like me, wasn't sure what those words were, stand at attention when you hear that.
I
So I
appreciate
wanted
that.
to thank you so much for
Oh,
that
yeah,
service.
thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it is very intense. Yeah, everything from sucking chest wounds that you'll see out in the battlefield, and it is a lot of repetition. So, but I mean, it's
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. So, but you even get daily urgent care, which translates to the civilian life, such as ingrown toenail removal, and you're in there. So I mean, you're doing quite literally everything.
Yes.
So it's a really great place to get experience and learn. So yeah, once I got done with the field medical service school, they offered some C schools, some secondary schools, such as pharmacy, radiology, tech, and I saw this aviation medicine. I guess growing up in the Top Gun Full Metal Jacket area, I kind of wanted to keep with the Marine theme, but maybe put some aviation on that. So I accepted a position to Aerospace Medical Technician School, which is in Pensacola, Florida, so home of our naval aviation. So once I graduated from that, I still had almost about 4 years active duty I still had to do because the corpsman contract is mostly a 4-year contract with a 12-month extension. So they still want their 4 years active duty, but it takes a longer time to train you. So I asked for to live in Southern California, to be with the Marines, and to do
Camp Pendleton there?
Yeah, and to the invasion of Iraq. And I got assigned to HMM 364, the Purple Foxes out of Camp Pendleton. And they were going to be the initial wave in Iraq. So I got what I wanted, and that was about Thanksgiving 2002. So there I was. I actually drove cross country from Ohio to California.
No small task on its own.
No. And on Thanksgiving Day, which was one of 3 days I spent, got out there, checked in, and first week of February, I was out in Kuwait before the initial wave started.
Yeah.
So
Unbelievable. So you literally, it's almost like you were predestined. You decided that you were going to do this in your senior year or junior year. Did you start thinking about doing this?
I think I started probably thinking about it probably fall of my senior year.
Okay.
I had applied to a few colleges, and I played sports and was on varsity basketball and football, and it was decent, but I knew at least I had enough maturity to realize that if I went to college, and I did play sports, it would have been too much. And whether I played or not, I probably would have ended up dropping out after a year or two. And I just probably needed a little bit more experience and define myself. So going in for me was the best thing that I could have done at that time.
Well, it was the best thing for our country, too. So that I got to say, the little bit of doubt on your part really helped us out. That was really amazing. And you did 2 tours of duty, correct?
That's correct. Yep. So I worked at Camp Pendleton, my home base there. And after the tour with HMM 364, came home and was at the medical clinic there. And then I went back out with MWSS 372, the Diamondbacks. So a shout out to them. And so they're also in Camp Pendleton. And but that was more of a ground. So that was it was interesting. So from being from the aviation side to some of a ground unit, we kind of did a lot of support. There was from logistics to supply to EOD. There was a lot of wild range there. So a variety of things. So and that was my second tour. And at that point it was obviously a little bit different because that was August of 2005.
Gotcha.
And that lasted until about April 2006, roughly.
And that was some of the most intense and fierce fighting.
Yep, that was in the Sunni Triangle, as they call it. So, you're around the Fallujah, Habaniya area.
Exactly.
So, it's the game had kind of changed a lot from. It was interesting. I guess in a way, I'm blessed to see kind of different viewpoints of everything in theater, and it was so different because we had bases and everything was set up and more in garrison, and then you go out, amongst the people and. So I've seen it from the ground angle, and just to see how everything kind of changed within 2 years was really interesting. So, that was, I mean, it was a pretty eye-opening experience, and kind of realized right away when you're going over there that this isn't a video game,
Yeah, exactly. It's real.
It's real.
You're not going to get up. One of my vets said you're not going to get up after 7 seconds.
No, yeah. So I remember making a comment to one of my guys that, you can't hit the power off. But I had realized this, as a young kid, I would say, even though during the invasion, because I remember I telling my mom I wanted to do this, and then right before we were getting on the plane, we're still at Camp Pendleton. We're about to get on the bus to go to the Air Force Base to take off, and I ran inside the hangar to call my mom. And this time I was the one upset and crying. and she was trying to hold it back. But then I realized at that time, like, this is real. I'm really getting on, and not everybody's going to come back. And it's a cold dose of reality. And so, yeah, it definitely made me who I am. But pushing through with the agrotherapy, as we're going to talk about today, has helped me become whole, I guess, again.
Right.
So,
well, let's just talk quickly then. You know, you had an amazing service, and by amazing, I mean amazing that you're here with us, because there were so many things that happened at that time. Not that being in any theater is easy, okay, but there was so much going on. You come back to Columbus, Ohio here, and you're thinking of going to the Ohio State University, and a lot of things kind of hit you at once. Just briefly tell, if you don't mind, our audience about, not only did you just come from a war zone and tragedy and loss of life there, but you came back home to very extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, it was very difficult for me both times, really. Initially, the first time I lost a very good friend, and the girl I went to prom with, and lifelong high school friend, Christine Wilson, who was killed tragically in a fire at Ohio State. That was in 2003. And then, I went back again, and I felt like every time I came home, there was something there waiting for me. Little did I know. When I got home the second time, it was April 2006. And, we do the whole thing. Your mom, your sister, all there, they celebrate. You get off the bus. And about a month later, I was going to go home on my post-appointment leave, and my mom called me crying because she had been diagnosed with cancer. So I actually kind of shook it off, because it was one of those things at the time where I said, not me, it doesn't happen to me, ignorantly. Right. So that's why the reason I'm open about it, because I want people to learn through my ignorance. I feel like it's one of the best teachers.
Well, as a coping mechanism, too. We all need coping mechanisms, and I think you beat yourself up a bit for that, but you had so much coming at you at one time, you couldn't do anything there. Right. You were coming home, so I don't think that, putting it off was just was putting it off, seriously.
Yeah, so... Yeah, the abbreviated version of it is that, so my mom got diagnosed. I came home. She was getting surgery. I thought maybe we'd make it past it. And but my command was great. And this is another thing I love about the Navy Marines, at least. This is great, because you take care of them, they take care of you. And so a shout out to Master Chief Adams, and also now Master Chief Galgana, who's getting ready to retire. And my command was great. They let me get out early. I had applied to the Ohio State University while in Iraq, so thanks to Dr. Mark Messick for that. He helped me with my application there. Mailed it in literally while I was in Iraq. Got the acceptance letter when I came home, and from that point, with the acceptance letter and then with my mom's situation, I was actually not supposed to get out until that end of September there, because, when I went in. And but I came home, and my mom ended up passing September 17th in 2006. So
right after.
That was the Sunday before my first day of class at Ohio State. So I come home, and when I came home, she was doing the chemo and the radiation simultaneously, and I'm taking her there. So my little sister's only in high school, so I'm kind of balancing everything. Also the transition, and then not really taking care of myself, because here I am. I just got out. I'm not going to the VA. I haven't really done anything, and I just jumped kind of right in at taking care of her. And I didn't expect her to pass. Like, she's only 50 years old, doing Pilates 3 times a week, doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, and this happens. It's not something that I thought was going to happen, and at the time I thought a little unfair, obviously. So so she dies like 3 days before my first day of class at Ohio State, and I just tried to push through, and it was tough. And once again, like I said, there was always something there waiting for me. When I got home from Iraq, that wasn't done. And then even a year later, I remember getting a call from one of my buddies, Corporal Looney. We had a bird. Our unit went back out to Iraq. So just because you get out, it doesn't mean that
your family, your military family's out, right?
They're still going, and that was really tough, because I quite vividly remember literally walking across the Oval, and on a Tuesday morning, and it's 8:30 in the morning. And I get this call, and I kind of had just a feeling that something was up. And he said, one of our birds got shot down, and of course all the names I knew, and it was tough. And I kind of realized at that point I was probably going to need more help than I had really thought I was going to need, and I needed to address it. And so it's like, here I am out a year, I got a lot of stuff, a lot of baggage going.
Right, exactly. And I know you got through OSU, and you got a degree in...
Yeah, so history, and I guess
Which
for all
shocked this physician
Yeah.
with your medical training.
Yeah.
That absolutely, when we were talking, it absolutely shocked me.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but you had a lot processing and
Yeah, and I'm like I said, I'm open about it. I want to like teach people through my experience. So I guess, for the veterans out there listening, in short, it's never too late to pivot. And a couple of reasons just why I did was I got bitter. I guess it's also a lesson not to be so bitter. I think obviously I could have succeeded in the medical field, but at the time, I got real bitter seeing these other non-veterans, which it's fine they didn't go in, and then going through medical school or undergrad. And they're there with their moms who might be nurses, and I'm sitting there alone,
Right.
battling everything that I had to battle.
Right.
And then now I got this, and so I needed to pivot and adjust, but I wanted to finish my GI Bill. So the other side of that is, Ohio State is, the number one school for not just history, but military history.
Right,
Austin, Texas
exactly.
A&M.
Woody Hayes, a shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out.
So we have a great military, and how it all came together was Colonel Mansour, who was the XO under General Petraeus. He was my professor. I think it was my third year, and so I just kind of went up to him. What the heck are you doing here? And he kind of looked at me and he was like, "Well, what do you think? I mean, this is the Ohio State. We have the number one program." And it kind of was an eye opener. And so he gave me some literature to help me out, and I think that started my path. But yeah, I ended up graduating with the GI Bill, and then I kind of, I guess, in a twist of ironic fate, I ended up getting in the security world, which is mainly the Marine side.
Yes.
And getting in the corporate world for access control, door hardware, security. And, I've been working in that the last dozen years now.
Okay. And that's an amazing journey that you took, because there were a lot of things that hit you. And to be fair, you had grown up with your mother as the main caregiver, your mother, your sister, and you, the three of you, and to lose not only one of your best friends in the civilian world, your prom date, and to lose your mother right after that, and then to lose a group that was shot down. I mean, that's a lot of loss, and that's one of the things that our audience is so good at understanding now. We really want to make that understood. I remember talking to one 23-year-old who one day called me right before Thanksgiving 2 years ago and just started listing names. I didn't even know who it was on the phone, listing names, and I started taking notes, and it was 30 names. Of friends he had lost in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I'm there I said, I'm 3 times your age, and I can name 8, I mean, for sure. So that's a lot of loss. So you came to a point where you said, I need to start dealing with this. And you dealt with it in such a saving way for the rest of us. Tell me a little bit about that pivot.
Yeah. So I decided, I knew I was kind of into nature a little bit, and I kind of found this connection there. And so initially started, my wife and I, before we were engaged, and we were living in this condo townhome, and I started building out this little garden out back. And I got
which is amazing.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Yes.
I got pretty wild with it, and I did everything from flowers to the vegetables. We had probably about 30 pots, and then I even did pumpkins, which I was
at a condo.
At a condo, and I was the first person, I guess they told me, in the history of this condo complex to have pumpkins, and they actually got about, the vines got 20, 30 feet long. That how they found out was they couldn't mow the common areas because the vines ended up growing out. And so at that point, my wife was like, if we're gonna have kids and you're gonna do all
Get
this,
some land.
We got to get a bigger house. So, we got our first house about 8 years ago, and I started, planning. And at the time, what I didn't realize, my knowledge base, how low it is. I look back and I'm like, wow, that, how much I've, learned since then. But that's when my therapy really started, I think, improving right there. So,
and tell us what you mean by that, agrotherapy.
So agrotherapy, the way I look at it is, restoring the earth, but you're also restoring yourself.
Okay.
So it's a restoration method of healing yourself both mentally and physically, while also addressing the earth and its needs right there. So there's... this is just all fact-based. There's nothing controversial about it. It's great. You're hands in the dirt, the kind of the old dirty hands, clean soul type of saying. So,
Yes.
And then when my daughter was born, she's an infant, I said to myself and her, I said, I'm going to build you a butterfly garden. But little did I know what that was going to take. So that took me on a path of, learning about host plants. What's a host plant? Certain butterflies and moths, they only reproduce on certain kinds of host plants. So, It's a long journey, and I could go in great detail about it. I guess, but the abbreviated version is getting the document from Doug Ptolemy and finding out who he was.
That's what I want to talk about. It's so interesting to me. Again, I have to say to our audience that one of the things that impresses me always about our young veterans that I talk to, and each and every one of them, is their ability to understand epiphany, ability to understand the one thing, because I think you're so used to, or the gut feeling of sorting out what's really important right now, what really isn't. That's your part of your survival. But tell me about your epiphany with an article that you just kind of came across. Or?
Yeah, that's exactly what So like I said, because that's really kind of think the one thing, if I could put something out on it where, hey, where did he pivot? Where did things really take off? And that's kind of where it took off. So there is a certified naturalist, volunteer, and subject matter expert, Kathy Kramer. I'll give her a shout out. She lives in Dublin, and I think it was either summer 2018 or 2019, one of those 2 summers. She's like, you really need this document. It was called Gardening for Wildlife. You can look it up online, but it's Gardening for Wildlife by Doug Ptolemy.
Okay.
And Dr. Douglas Ptolemy is a professor, an entomologist, one of the top entomologists in the world, if not the top. He's written a couple of New York Times bestsellers. He's, I think, author of 6 books now, maybe 7. So this 2-page document is a very condensed, as much as you can, abbreviated version of all of this ecological conservation, agrotherapy, all this stuff condensed down to 2 pages. So why we need it. And I read that, and all the light bulbs went off. Went on, excuse me. So all the lights went on. At that point, I was like, oh my God, I'm connecting all these dots. And I was like, it's like the more you read, the more you realize you don't know. So I, started realizing the genius of Lepidoptera, which is moths and butterflies. They have all these host plants that I was just talking about. And
by host plant, you mean?
A native plant that is actual native to our region. So
that they are that they really require
for
life.
To.
Right.
So, and the most people know about milkweeds and monarchs, so I kind of use that as an example just because that's the most, I guess, publicized, commercialized.
And the M&M is an easy one to remember. Yeah. Even I remember that one.
Yeah. So, without milkweed, quite literally all the monarchs die. So if you were to snap your fingers, and if you could do this, and all the milkweed are gone, monarchs are extinct tomorrow. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They can only reproduce on that milkweed. So, and at that point, so I went out. So then COVID, of course, happened, and I ordered all his books. And I said, well, I'm just going to sit down and read all these books. So I'm reading all these books, and then I thought, well, I wonder if somebody ranked what species of plants host the most Lepidoptera. Well, Doug Ptolemy did that. And come to find out, oaks host almost 800 different species of Lepidoptera, that means 800 different types of moths and moths and butterflies,
right?
On that oak tree. And then after that, you have your Prunus genus, which is cherries, wild cherry, black cherry.
Okay.
And then you have willows, and then you have birches, and you can continue to go down. So I went through, and I just started planting all of this stuff. And
because you promised your daughter a butterfly garden. You can't do it without butterflies.
I can't do it without butterflies, right?
And it turns out you can't do it without these specific plants for the specific butterflies.
Exactly. So as I'm going through this, I also realize it's amazing that the hurt that I was feeling, or the stuff inside that I had not yet addressed, I was addressing that, little did I know.
Yeah.
So I think after I started planting some of these native plants, I started to see the wildlife come back and see some of these butterflies. And it was just amazing to me. I just felt the sense of healing that 6 months, 12 months after doing it. It happens pretty fast. You get these native plants in there, you take some of the non-native, real aggressive invasives like the Japanese honeysuckle, you take those out and you put these in and you see it come back. I felt this sense of, nurturing and I feeling whole again. And I guess the best thing I would say is, I can't go back and bring back the lives of everybody that, I serve with, and that, and I can't, you make a commitment to, their spouses and their families that, hey, they're going to make it home, but that's not realistic. And, but what I can do is I can recreate new life. And whether somebody thinks that's cheesy or not, I'm telling you it's real. So I can't go back, but you have so much power, and I'm going out there and I see the wildlife multiply by planting all this. And it was amazing feeling. It feels so powerful. I quite literally see monarchs every single day, swallowtails every single day. Assassin bugs, which are really cool, but you see all sorts of wildlife. I mean, it's not just, from, possums all the way up through all the mammals, the birds. We're up to almost 100 different species, a variety of birds. I mean, I'm getting
in
our yards.
In our space.
I mean, we live in a suburban home. Like, we live on a cul-de-sac in Dublin, and I got great crested flycatchers and of course bluebirds, and I have birds that wouldn't necessarily be in our area. Rose-breasted grosbeak. I mean, I got not just your common birds, not just your doves and your crows. I'm getting very unique wild variety of birds.
And one of the things, okay, so you share this information with me on our kind of pre-chat. And so I'm not great at reading, finding the time to read. So last night I spent a great deal of time looking at Doug Talmy videos. And like this morning I'm there like, oh my God, I got to get home. I got to start planting these trees. I got to start getting this. And with how quickly, I think how quickly we can bring back this environment, because I didn't know our bird species were dying out, our insects were dying out. I mean, I've heard about bees, I've heard about things, but in the general milieu of things, we hear on the news day in and day out, chaos, 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 gloom and doom. We don't hear this. And what this is taking back something we can make a change for, which is the saving of the earth, literally.
Yeah. And I think that's what's so symbolic about this, and that's why I really urge. And I've contacted a lot of the veterans that I've been, served with and spoke about this, is that not only are you just saving the earth, but you could be saving yourself as well. And
absolutely.
So I think a lot of times, both this agrotherapy and my kids, have helped me save myself, right? And like I said, there's a lot of doom and gloom out there, and this is a space where, like I said, there's nothing controversial. There's no like two sides of it. It is what it is, and you learn about symbiotic relationships and all this, between, the plants, and it's all connected. So a lot of people look at maybe as the plants as a static green plant, and they just see, I've heard another word of the plant blindness or green blindness, where you just see it and you see it like, oh, it's a honeysuckle. But most people don't know that's a honeysuckle. They just think, oh, that's good, it's a plant. Well, that's not necessarily true, but it's all connected. And so restoring all this, I think I have almost close to 100 different native plants, which I didn't realize. That wasn't, and that might seem daunting, but that wasn't the goal.
Okay.
I didn't even realize that until I started counting. It was, one night I just, the kids are sleeping. I was like, I'm kind of curious. And I kind of was going through some receipts, and I was taking some pictures outside.
Yes.
And I was kind of just wanted to add up where I was at, and realize, hey, you plant 2 or 3 of the same plant. Well, that's one species, right? And that's really easy. And you can do them as little seedlings too. It's pretty cheap. So, and there's people also like me that I could probably have to split some plants and give them away for free. But you can get your numbers up high and then restore that. And I guess the one thing I do want to share too is that you can use this to translate from, the people that you served with, if you had a memory.
Right.
So, there was a guy, I know his first name was Hop, and he had 3 sons, all friends of mine. And so I planted 3 hop trees. Now, it doesn't have to quite literally be the first name. We lost our master sergeant and on my second tour. So I planted some oaks in place of him, because he's
That's
big,
amazing.
Big,
and I do believe in that interconnection. And Dr. Talmy himself talks about that interconnection of species, of plants, of us, and how all of us, and I hadn't really thought of this, how all of us, without plants, we don't exist.
Right.
We don't.
Yeah.
Because even if we consume, meat or animals, they need the plant. So it was, I didn't sleep much last night. I'm like, man, I can't wait to talk to him about this. And I do want to bring up something that I mentioned to you, and I've mentioned before on this podcast, quite frankly. We always talk about war and peace. And I loved a line from the theater Rent, where they say the opposite of war isn't peace, it's creation. And I went with that line, just like your Doug Talmy epiphany. That was an epiphany for me, and that was before we even had 911. Okay, and I go, man, that's making a lot of sense. Each and every veteran that I see who've seen and been immersed in destruction and death and, kind of like what you think is the finalization of a cycle, can begin their own cycle of bringing them back, whether it be in memory. I founded Resurrecting Lives Foundation on the basis now of 3 of my friends who lost their sons in battle. I couldn't bring them back. But we can honor them by starting a foundation to bring their brothers and sisters back. And you're now a major part of this, and we're very thankful for you for sharing this. You took some of this idea to both the VA, vet centers. Tell us, because you're not a person who just holds things in.
Yeah, how could you tell?
You're evangelical, and that's what we need right now, for sure.
I just try to spread my knowledge, and I think there's just a lot to learn. I guess I was so excited about learning all this that I looked at it and I go, how the heck did I not know all this information is out there?
I thought that last night.
Yeah, there's so many bold-faced words that I'm looking at these things. And even just this week, I was learning, the scientific name for mechanical stress, and because I had a tree fall on top of another tree, and I'm researching, and I still continue to learn all these things. So, I went to the VA, which I always recommend veterans to please go to your VA, get the help that you need, get the benefits. And so I had been working with Dr. Casey Judge, who's phenomenal. And after working with her for about a year or so, I had this idea in my mind to start a gardening group for veterans. And little did I know that she had an idea for me about the same thing. So it was about maybe a couple years ago. I said, hey, we really should probably start a gardening group for veterans. And she goes, actually, I was going to be meaning to bring that up to you. I was going to task you with doing that. So I said, all right, well, I'm glad we bring it up. So we started that, and then she helped to get Ohio State on board. So this kind of took off, and I didn't expect all that. And it's great. It's phenomenal. Kind
of an exponential takeoff, yes.
Yeah, so she, reached out to Mike Hogan at the Ohio State University about, could we create a heroes garden? And Ohio State's been completely supportive of it. They've been great. And so once again, my alma mater and a place, where I have many connections to. So we started going out there about a year and a half ago on Wednesdays, and from 5 to 7, and then on Saturday mornings they have a space, and everything from planning to teaching to harvesting. It's fun. I bring my kids out there, and so you can come solo, you can bring your spouse, you can do whatever, just veterans are welcome. And so we created this Heroes Garden, and it's been phenomenal. They've been completely supportive of our initiative and what we're doing there.
Yeah, that is amazing, because I know, living in the town of Columbus, you hear, so much about football, and, wonderful sport. I'm a football enthusiast, but these universities, and the Ohio State is so much more than that,
Right.
Your mother did her part in with all of the things that they do for, cancer diagnosis and treatment. You're doing your part in literally, doing what we like to do best, resurrecting lives, like bringing them back to a state where you feel like you're actually making a difference every single day. I mean, every single day you are making a difference. So how has that been received at vet centers and the VA in general?
So we initially we're expanding the group. Obviously, it's we're getting half dozen people there. So we initially started with a lot of classes before the spring got started, and but it's been receptive very well at the VA. The vets that we talked to and Ohio State, they've been very well received, and really it's just about getting the word out. I want to get as many veterans in there as possible. That's really I guess if you want to call it an issue, the biggest issue. Yes. So from there, then obviously, the summer we went out into the garden, got our hands in the soil. So
yes.
Finished that up, and then back at it again this year. I haven't been able to make it out as much just because of work and life. Some things popping up, but we're still active with it. And yes. I've gotten connected with you now in the spring because of really the OSU initiative and Mike putting me in contact with some mutual friends. And so we were able to contact each other. So yeah, it's great. I just hope to kind of get the word out, but it's been well received, and the VA and the Vet Center OSU is very supportive of it. So
well, we will definitely have links to Doug Tommy's Garden for Life, which there's two parts of that article, like Garden for Wildlife, and then he will cut that down to say Garden for Life, and it has that dual meaning.
Yep.
We all should be stewards of the planet for life, and secondly, our lives depend on it. So, like I said, you've now got me going on this, and I don't think that I've ever planted anything that has lived very long because I just had not learned to take care of it. I would like to say that, in our logo is actually, the military members' backdrop is the Rorschach test for butterfly.
Oh.
And we have that for two reasons. Number one, because we state very accurately that our veterans are out of their brains, not out of their minds, And secondly, because no creature on Earth, I found out, goes through more changes in totally different forms than the butterfly, which really, when you mentioned to me on the phone about the butterfly garden, I said, that butterfly reflects your life. Mm-hmm. You have, and no matter whether they put you in a larva or you're coming back out bigger, stronger, better, brighter, and I think that's what you're trying to enlist all of us to do as well.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, and it's just so symbolic of where maybe some of the veterans might be in their life. And there's nothing perfect. That's the other beautiful thing about just being out there in nature and maybe doing some ecological restoration is that there's nothing perfect. And in fact, a lot of times messy's better, and that kind of gets a bad connotation. It's not truly messy, but it's just, if you have a volunteer, which are great, I had a volunteer oak and a volunteer sweet gum pop up. It's great. I let them be. So very symbolic of
and volunteer, you mean they just grow on their
they
own?
pop up.
You haven't planted them; they just appeared.
A bird could have planted it, a bird or a squirrel or who knows planted it there. And I incorporate that, and I just feel like that's also symbolic of, hey, I'm gonna let this be, but there's nothing picture perfect about it, and it's okay actually not to be manicured, and we can't have these manicured lawns, and so I know our lives might be a little bit chaotic, but the nature of what you have in your backyard reflects that. And you can help. There might be some people listening say, well, I got a small yard or a postage stamped yard, or I'm in an apartment or condo. You can still do it. You can do it in pots, I mean, like I said, I was in a condo. I had 30 different pots of different. I had tomato hornworms on there, which actually turn into butterfly moths. So I would urge people to leave them alone, and also birds would eat them. So, it's great. So the one thing I would share is that E.O. Wilson had said that, insects are the little things that run the world. And so without these, all ecosystems collapse. And it quite literally, the earth and us would collapse within 30 days because they're the building blocks.
I know. Isn't that amazing to me?
It's wild.
When I read that, it just really got to me. And our kind of resident artist who has been on this program and will be again in the next year, retired U.S. Navy Chief Joe Paisano from San Diego, also works with insects and relocating varmints. Because we consider varmint, what we consider pest, is what's keeping us alive. And that really shocked me.
Yeah, they're little workers. So I guess they're kind of like the E1s through E3s of the military.
Oh, really?
Maybe your younger petty officers, your E4s, E5s. So they're doing all the work. I know the senior list that did their work. Don't. I'm not trying to service you guys.
Right, exactly. No, it's a lot of work. Read it. Yes.
So but if you look at it from that standpoint, they're the little workers of the world, right? Yes. And so they're breaking down all the soil so we could use it. So. It's an amazing journey, and I really highly encourage everybody to get it. And once you start it and get into it, I don't think you'll stop. So that's the thing. You just got to keep going at it, and don't be intimidated. I learn stuff all the time. I didn't really know a whole lot about this before I started, but I can say that it's made me who I am today now.
Well, I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that you are mission-minded people. We've been saying this throughout all of our podcasts. Our military now represents, 1% of our population is volunteering their lives for us. The other 99% of us are kind of gliding on your back. I think that Doug Tomley said it great when he goes, this is no longer a movement, this is a mission. Yeah. And what you've done is found this mission, grabbed it as your own. Now you've incorporated us, you've incorporated our foundation, and we just got to know you through a generous grant that we got from the Meyer Company to do a small starter garden at home. And here, it was great that we were connected to you because you'd already started all this. I'm sure we didn't add as much to it, but we'll be talking to Meyer again, and they'll be taking a look at this podcast and saying, hey, can we do a little bit more with a few more veterans and get this to grow? Ohio has the 5th largest veterans population. So doing things like this in Ohio really does make a difference. And we're knocking on Pennsylvania's door, which is the 6th, So we're really close to a large mass of people. Plus, with our office that we have in San Diego and your connections in California, we can really make this movement get started very quickly. So in the VA, do they have actual programs yet that you know of for agrotherapy? Because I could not find them, and I'll do some more research for sure when this podcast airs, and that maybe anybody who knows can get in touch with our foundation and let us know.
Yeah, I haven't found anything at the VA itself, and I was there just last week, so I haven't found anything, whether it's online or in person there. I wish they would. So the only thing that I know of is the item that we're doing, the OSU gardening, the Heroes Garden, as we call it. Perfect. The Heroes Garden with Ohio State through the Vet Center. That is, like I said, started with Dr. Casey Judge and myself. And that's the only one I know of, and I wish we had more. Ideally, pie in the sky, if anybody's listening, I think it would be wonderful knowing the large veteran presence that we have. Right. And then the land, the type of landscape that we're blessed with here in Ohio.
It's true, right? I mean, when we look at what's been happening in the country, all through our past summer, it was fires and floods, everything else. So, I mean, we do have good amount of rainfall, 4 seasons, I think that it could be an amazing amazing thing for our next governor to take on.
Yeah, I would. It's a win-win for all. So imagine if we had, it doesn't have to be 50 or 100 acres, but imagine if we had 20 acres and we had, dozens of veterans go out to there that, and then restore the field, or it's probably been monocultured, or the soil's degraded. And what if we went out there and we could do a number of things? You could build, a forest. You could build a state park. You could build a playground, whatever it might be, a prairie, a meadow, just a butterfly garden. But imagine, having 5, 10, 15, 20 acres, whatever your land is, and then veterans going out there, restoring the land, making this beautiful landscape, and not only healing the land, but healing themselves. Mm-hmm. That's picture perfect. That's ideally, if I could get to that point, that'd be amazing. That's the dream.
We'd really like to help you do it. And our audience, if you have any suggestions or contacts you want to send us to info@resurrectinglives.org, you always can. And we'll be, they can check on the little blurb for Doug Talmy as well, and ways to contact you. And we hope you come join us at RLF as well. Our treasurer, Paul Carlson, has been in this space for about a couple decades. I mean, he started long before it, and he kept telling me, Chrisanne, you really need to look at this. And, oh, yeah, I'll get to it, because I was all, into what was happening in terms of the brain injuries from this type of warfare, and trying to get that diagnosed and treated first. But we've come a long way since I got started with that in 2009. And so I think now is a way to say, okay, now how do we nurture this? How do we keep brain health and calmness, and yet that sense of mission, and make the country better as well? Our tagline is resurrect a hero, strengthen a nation. And you are like picture perfect for that. We're so happy that you came in today. What would be your major takeaways for our audience today, Matt?
I would say just being open-minded and get out there and experience nature and just begin. It doesn't take, you don't have to read all these books first. You just get out there, and I would say a lot of it's trial by error, and then don't be afraid to ask questions and read about it, and just start experiencing. And native plants, just make sure it's local to your area. I would recommend Doug Talmy reading all his items. Highly recommend that. And
his videos are amazing too. For those of you that don't think that but don't do it right before you sleep.
yeah, that's the thing. Yeah,
first thing in the morning when you've got time that you can make a difference.
I agree. Yeah, he gets you fired, because I look at it and I'm go, wow, that's my purpose. But I would just dive in, Doug Talmy, the videos or books, whatever you prefer. But just start getting out there, and then start researching what's native to your area. So even if it's native to the country, what's native to California isn't native to Ohio, and that does matter. So it has to be native to your actual region, and there's resources online about that. But I would just say start getting out there, and you can see the effects of it, and I guarantee you'll feel a lot better about yourself.
We're coming in, kind of toward the end of the growth season here. Our October forecast, our fall, everybody's harvesting, but we want to bring you back, in the spring when we're talking about what you're going to be doing to plant and all that, so that we would love to get, even a virtual group online from different parts of the country of veterans telling us what they're doing in their areas, because this is a mission, and it's a mission to save, like you said, yourself, but your communities, your state, your country, your planet, and we really appreciate that. Do you have? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we'll say if you're eager to start, and I hope you are now, October, November, especially early November, would be a great month to plant. Actually, October is the best month to plant, which I didn't, for trees going forward, which I didn't know either. Once again, other time would be spring. So one of the things that I've learned, but pretty much almost every tree on my property at this point has actually been planted in the second half of October or the first week of November.
Okay, perfect to
know.
So
I would say,
perfect timing.
Plant, and then it, make sure it's covers soil, and then comes back in the spring, and then there you go, and it's ready to hit the ground running. So you can actually start if you're eager right now in this autumn.
Well, that's why we thought we'd get you in the autumn to tease the audience, and then we'll really get going as well in the spring and look to have you back. If you could leave our audience with like one quote or one thing that kind of drives you, what would you say to them? And we'll have you look right at them. Look right at them.
I would say plant as if your life depended on it.
I love that, because I just learned last night it really does, So I had heard, it isn't that Paul hasn't taught me that before, but I really got to know it from listening to you. Seriously, you've been such a help to me, and we hope to help, a lot more of our veterans to help save our planet, our country, our way of life, food chain beauty chain, and most important, give us that mission. So,
Well, thank you.
Oh, we really appreciate having you. We'll be seeing you again. And for all of the audience, please feel free to make comments on our website. If you need, have a question or that for Matt, we promise not to inundate you, but we'll get them all together and take that to him and see what we can do to get back to you as soon as possible. We really do have a great opportunity now in all the chaos that's going on in the world. And I know that we can make order out of that, and we can do that starting in your backyard. So thank you all for joining us. Plant a tree now, and we'll come back in the spring, and you can tell us how they're doing. Send us pictures and see how well your garden for life is turning. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye now.
If you are thinking about harming yourself or attempting suicide, tell someone who can help right away. Call 911 for emergency services. Go to the nearest hospital emergency room. Call or text 988 to connect with the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. This podcast is made possible thanks to a grant from the Fred and June McMurray Foundation, and it's produced by the Resurrecting Lives Foundation at the Sycamore Studio. Music is written, performed, and graciously provided by Tim Beckley. Remember, when you work toward brain injury recovery, it is best to journey with a friend and keep your gait steady and your spirit strong. Finally, always seek shelter from your storm.
Baghdad, the Basra, the Boston, the Bakersfield, the hottest battle I ever fought is raging inside of me. My brain has been battered, scrambled and rattled, and no one knows what's going on.